I said a few weeks ago that I'd talk with you regularly and directly about the big issues we're facing together as Canadians. My goal, as always, is to explain as plainly as I can what we're doing as your government, why we're doing it, and what we're working to achieve for our great country. Many people have since told me that they like the approach of the first video. Not everyone agrees with everything I said, of course, and that's good too, because feedback is important. And I'm pleased that Canadians see these talks in the spirit they're intended, to improve our understanding of where we are, the challenges we face, and how we can take control of our future. Taking back control is critical because we're living through a time of great disruption.
For years, Canada built its entire energy future around one customer, one market, one relationship. Today, Mark Carney stood up and said, plainly, that era is finished. And buried inside this speech is something even bigger, an admission that his government is walking away from one of the most fought-over energy policies in the country's recent history. Stick around, because that part alone is going to spark a fight. Let's get into it. Today, we're faced with the types of decisions that come once every few generations, but that will determine our future for decades. Our independence, sustainability, and prosperity will depend crucially on our ability to supply and control our energy. So I want to talk to you today about energy. We face an energy crisis on three levels. An affordability crisis. You don't need me to tell you about the price of gas. A security crisis. The fact is, the world's energy supply is being upended by conflict and coercion, and a climate crisis that's burning our forests and threatening our kids' future. We need an energy transition that really works. The good news is that Canada has the solutions, and that when we control our own energy, we control our future. Three crises, one answer, according to Carney, and he wastes no time getting to the part of this speech that's really going to matter for Canada's relationship with Washington. It's important to know that the global oil shock is happening, even though Canada is producing far more oil than we ever have. In fact, only two countries have increased oil production more than we have this century, the United States and Russia. Most of our increased production has been for export, and almost all of those exports have traditionally gone to one country, the United States. The US pays a discount for Canadian oil, in part because it's been our only customer. That started to change last year when the new Trans Mountain pipeline came online. For the first time, we have direct access from our West Coast to fast-growing Asian markets. That gives us a better price for our oil and more resources to support Canadians. It's also why we're developing options for a second oil pipeline to the West Coast. And it's why we are building a series of projects to export low-carbon liquefied natural gas to partners in Asia and Europe. Our heavy reliance on the U.S. market was once a strength, but it's now a vulnerability. Put simply, we now need to build energy infrastructure to give ourselves more options, and those new options will be an important source of our strength, and they will help make our partners less vulnerable to conflicts. So much so that the G7 endorsed our strategy when it met recently in France. Let's actually sit with that for a second, because it's easy to miss how big an admission that is. For decades, selling oil to the US at a discount wasn't seen as a weakness. It was treated as the whole business model. One buyer, guaranteed demand, no need to build anything new. Carney just told the country that model is over, and he's not being subtle about why. When your only customer can turn around and threaten tariffs or float annexing your country outright, you don't have a trade relationship anymore. You have a hostage situation with better branding. That's what the Trans Mountain expansion actually represents here, not just a pipeline, but Canada's first real exit ramp from a decades-long dependency. Every barrel that now moves west to Asia instead of south to the US is a barrel Washington can no longer use as leverage. And the G7 backing this strategy matters more than it sounds. It means Canada's closest allies are quietly telling Washington the same thing. The rest of the world isn't interested in staying that dependent on one unpredictable neighbor either. We can't allow the ability to power our lives and put food on our table to be forever at the mercy of outside forces. We need affordable, homegrown energy, and a lot of it, because the path to affordability is electrification. The path to competitiveness is electrification. The path to sustainability is electrification. Through our new national electricity strategy, we will build quickly and at scale to double our energy infrastructure and build a strong Canada that is powered by clean, affordable, and reliable energy. And through our complementary nuclear energy strategy, we will build on Canada's standing as one of the world's leading nuclear nations, developing new reactors at home, exporting Canadian expertise abroad, and delivering clean baseload power and good jobs in communities right across this country. With the right investments and electrification measures, 7 in 10 Canadian households will pay less for their total energy by 2050. That's $15 billion right back in the pockets of Canadians. Here's what that actually means in real terms, not just talking points. Carney is betting that switching Canadians over to electric heating, electric vehicles, and electrified industry will save households money, not because electricity itself gets dramatically cheaper, but because electric systems waste far less energy than the gas-burning ones they're replacing. 2 to 4 times more efficient, in his own words. That's the entire math behind the $15 billion figure. It's an ambitious bet, and doubling the country's entire electricity grid inside a few decades is not a small undertaking. It means new transmission lines, new nuclear plants, new permitting processes, all moving faster than government projects in this country typically move. If it works, it's a generational win. If it stalls the way big infrastructure projects in Canada often have, Canadians could be left paying for half-built promises. I promised you I wouldn't sugarcoat tough messages. The climate plan we inherited from the previous government was well-intentioned and well-suited for the times in which it was designed. The climate crisis is still with us, and our commitment to fighting it is absolute. But the certainties of the world of 2015 are long gone. Our neighborhood hasn't been this hostile since Canada was founded. We can't afford to restrain the growth of an important part of our energy mix, oil and gas, to meet a short-term goal. I want to be clear on this point. The changes we have made will mean that our emissions will be higher in the next few years than they were projected to be under the previous government's plan. But in my judgment, that plan was not sustainable over the long term. It would have been too expensive for Canadians, and it would have let down our partners who need new sources of energy right at the time when we need them to help us become more independent of the United States. That's Carney directly admitting his government is choosing higher near-term emissions over a plan he's calling politically and economically unsustainable. And however you feel about that trade-off, it's the kind of admission most politicians spend their entire careers avoiding saying out loud. As you enjoy Canada Day this year, I hope you get time with the people you love. Our new plan will help build clean energy on a scale that would astound even Sir Adam Beck. It will make Canada more sustainable, more affordable, and more prosperous. It will build Canada strong together. Whether this plan actually delivers or collapses under its own ambition, one thing is already true. Carney isn't describing small adjustments anymore. He's describing a Canada that no longer builds its future around Washington's approval, for better or worse. Do you think Canada can really pull off full energy independence from the US, or is this more promise than plan? Subscribe to Unbiased Canada, hit like, and tell us in the comments.